Hello, this is Rabbi Juan Marcos Berjana Gutierrez. I've got a little visitor here, Yonadav, my third son. This is probably like the 10th time I've tried to make this video because I had my other two sons coming in and jumping up and down, trying to interrupt, but we'll try to get through it. So I'll try to make it as brief as possible. This is my new book, The Converso Dilemma, Halachic Responsa and the Status of Forced Converts. This is a proof copy. I just got it in today, so I need to check some things, but I'm pretty excited about it. I had posted the release on different Facebook groups that deal with Anusim, Crypto-Jews, Sephardic studies, and I had a friendly exchange with someone who questioned the use of the term Anusim by individuals today in the 21st century that claim to be the descendants of Jews who were forced to convert in the 14th and 15th centuries. And I noted as a response, now their argument was that, well, these individuals had, of course, died in the 14th, 15th centuries. Why would they use those terms? And I noted that in Spanish society, Castilian society, Aragonese society, the converso class, the class of individuals who had been converted to Christianity, generally under duress, but there were certainly some people who did so under, as a personal choice, conviction. It was a self-perpetuating group. That is to say that it wasn't simply the first generation that was considered to be conversos, but the second and the third and so forth. And Miriam Bodian marks this that it was a self-perpetuating class. And this is where we derive the idea of the limpieza de sangre, the purity of blood laws. Now, as a parallel in rabbinic literature, we find that the rabbis refer to the children and the children's children and so forth as Anusim and Bnei Anusim. They use the same terms. And so I think there's almost this sense that, well, the subsequent generations are, the children of captivity, the famous Tiknok Nishba, the children of this situation, and so they have to be categorized in the same fashion. And even into the 20th century, you have rabbis who have used, the descendants of Anusim as a term of preference. I think the real issue has to do with something that came about in the discussion, and that was that this person was a little bit taken aback because apparently some people who claim to be Anusim, or the descendants of Anusim, had questioned this person's Jewishness and whether they had the ability to prove through documents their Jewish background. And as a consequence, these individuals basically said, if you don't accept us, we don't have to accept you. Now, part of that has to do with the fact that they are probably reacting to what happens in Latin America quite often. The United States is a wonderful place in terms of the marketplace of ideas, economic freedom, but there's also a marketplace of religious expression and ideas that people can go into different communities and experience them, and if they choose to, even if it's difficult, they can become part of those communities if they truly want to. In Latin America, that's not a choice that is usually presented. The Jewish community is typically closed. They don't accept converts. They're not interested, for the most part, in individuals who claim to be Bnei Anusim. I saw an article from, I think it was 2006 or something like that, just a very sad article that talked about a rabbi in Mexico who had been helping people in Veracruz. And some of these individuals claimed to be descendants of Bnei Anusim. Other people were simply interested in Judaism. And this rabbi, the only rabbi in all of Mexico at the time, and in fact, I think even to the present day, who was helping people convert, was helping this community in Veracruz. And one of the individuals that was involved, who was not part of the community, said something like, I think they were involved with the Israeli Ministry of Interior. They said, oh yeah, we're looking for people to come and work in the land for low-wage jobs. And it was just sort of a very sad depiction. You have individuals who are going against the grain by embracing the faith of their fathers or their ancestors, or embracing a new faith. And the best that we can say is that they're needed in Israel to supply low-wage, jobs that need to be filled. And I thought it was very sad. But I say that as an example that sometimes individuals are reacting to the closed doors that they have been presented with. There's an emotional issue involved, and so they're looking to learn, they're looking for acceptance, they're looking for paths, and sometimes the doors are closed and shut very tightly. And I think that's sad, and I think you have to understand that to some extent. Now, I think on the part of those individuals who claim to be Bnei Anusim, arrogance is not something I think that is beneficial. There's a tremendous amount of education that they should undertake. But I think in Latin America, where those resources are not as open or available to them, I think that is sort of, in a sense, it reflects poorly on the established Jewish community. And I know that there's reasons why they adopt that. But I think that in the midst of a society in which anti-Semitism, anti-Jewish views are often quite common, the Jewish community should do everything possible to further communication, education, and an open door. I remember when I was visiting Mexico City back in 2010, when I was visiting my then about to be fiance, whom I married. Um, I was in the car in Mexico City, and I hadn't referenced, I had my hat on. You couldn't see a kippah, yarmulke, anything. The first thing that got into the taxi, and the taxi driver began to say anti-Jewish things, and it was sort of interesting because, I mean, it was an experience for me. I had never heard that before. And there was a large population of Jews in Mexico City, 40,000, something like that, maybe 50,000, I'm not sure. But um, just sort of, it was a conversation in which the individual was relating things that he believed, and it was just sort of amazing, in a bad way to hear that. But my point is simple: is that individuals who claim to be descendants of Anusim are not doing it because they somehow get some kind of a star or a status symbol in their countries. It's not popular to be Jewish. It's not popular to claim that. There may be certain contexts in which that might be the case, but I think those are generally not widespread. And I know that there have been some groups, different Christian groups and so forth, that you have congregations that I think in Colombia in particular who have converted en masse, or at least large numbers of them. But I think those are really the exceptions. It's not typical. And if you look at the cases of most individuals, it's not something that is really to their benefit. It's not to their benefit in terms of their family. It's not a benefit to their relatives. It's not benefit to their benefit in terms of their society, in terms of the majority of the people that they interact with. I mean, I've had people contact me from Venezuela, from Cuba, from Colombia, from Argentina, from all these different places, and oftentimes the reception that they have received is a very poor one in the Jewish community. So what happens is they sort of develop this sort of a defensive mode. And I think that these are opportunities for people to, people who have the resources to be able to make those resources available to people in these countries. Let me note that this book is available on the Kindle version is released. It's on Amazon. And if you type in my name, for those of you who might not be familiar with me, you can look at the name at the bottom. You can type in and you'll find quite a few books that I've written on a variety of different topics. A huge niche that I write on is on this crypto-Jewish issue. Historically, the Inquisition. I've written on the Sabbatean movement and the involvement of Conversos in that. So anyways, in any case, if you have the chance, please visit Amazon, type in my name, buy the Converso Dilemma, and feel free to post comments, contact me as well through cryptojewisheducation.com.